Okay, thanks. So thanks, Jason, for joining us today. I wanted to ask you a few questions about the compost extract you have and how folks are using it in your area. But first, I wanted to introduce to folks what compost extract is. So it's basically a liquid extract of compost, right? It has the nutrients, the microbes, a lot of the enzymes, organic acids, plant growth promoting compounds, a lot of the things that can be extracted with water easily out of compost, right?
Correct.
How else would you describe it?
So the way I like to describe it to people is this is the biology. This is what, when you put it down, it's the workers that go in the soil that actually feed the plants, break all the nutrients down to a plant usable form, and just bring your soil back to life. It's the life in the soil is forgot about so much that this is really a key part to help bring it back.
So how did you get into this?
So in 2000, our family went all organic with our family farm. I graduated college in 2004 with an automotive mechanics degree and realized when I was working my job as a mechanic the first summer, when I was calling in sick to come back and help with wheat harvest and everything, I realized my heart was on the farm, not in the mechanic world. So I ended up coming back and we needed a source for organic approved fertilizer for our farm. So we started out with just the compost, and then that led into some classes I was going to learning how to make high quality compost, where they really talked about this extract. I got excited about it. We bought into the technology with another company. We worked the first 2 years without telling anybody we were doing it because I wanted to see my own results. Put it on our own farm ground, saw some results. So then we started selling it. I believe this is my 15th year, I believe, 14th or 15th year making the extract. We ended up finding a lab we worked with that actually helped us dial it into our region more for the biology that we needed and really fine tune it to kind of the crops that we're working with. And so that's where we really got into it.
So you're making your own compost. So you make a fair amount of manure-based compost that you sell also as dry compost. And then you also make a different compost that you use specifically for the extract, correct?
Correct. Uh, it is not a manure-based compost. It is made out of numerous other things. The mixture that we've come up with working with the lab to, like I say, work best in our region. So
And it's a little heavier in carbon-based materials, a little more fungal dominant product than the manure-based one.
correct.
And then you said when you started, you were actually getting some compost or some extract from the Midwest and didn't have as good results with that.
Correct. Yeah. At first, we just bought the compost directly from the company we were working with. We were seeing some results. It just wasn't as much as I felt like we could get. So it's like we went and started working with a lab that really understood what we were trying to do and then just dialed it in more for our region because Illinois and Wyoming are two complete different climates, different, amount of moisture, different biology. It's just totally different. So that's why we really worked on getting it dialed in for our climate that we have.
And then you've seen a lot better results since then on the ground.
Yes.
So tell me, you move a lot of this product to farms in the area of Southeast Wyoming. What are people using it on?
So we have a wide range. We do a lot of wheat just because that's primarily what we raise in our area. We do corn. We've done a lot of pasture grass actually lately, and alfalfa really hit that market harder. We've done sunflowers. We've done millet, uh, garbanzo beans, pinto beans. I feel like sorghum. So we've used it on pretty much everything that's grown in our area.
And you're putting it on, tell me how you're primarily using it or how folks are primarily using this product.
So a lot of people use it as foliar, but we can also use it as in furrow as a starter fertilizer. If you have a way to inject through a irrigation system, that works phenomenal too. It's all a lot of what the customers have. In our area, I do a lot of foliar application because we're primarily dry land and people don't have a way to apply it other than that. Their planters aren't set up to put in furrow. So we do a lot of foliar application, but all it's kind of relative to what your options are. in furrow has probably been one of our best results. And then through irrigation works phenomenally too. It's all just kind of, there's different timing for what you're wanting to accomplish with it, to where we've kind of put it on different ways for that.
So when you say foliar, it can go in through a pivot, it can go in through an irrigation system, it can go in with a spray rig of some sort. Um,
Correct.
and you mentioned a little bit of mixing it. You can mix it with some humates or some fish fertilizer, other products, right?
Yes, we have tried with humic acid, we've tried fish, we've zinc, magnesium. I mean, the limits are endless. The biggest thing I really tell people to watch for with doing that is to make sure that whatever they're mixing it with doesn't have a preservative in it. Because we have had a couple issues where we did some testing and found out the preservative in the additive we were using with it was actually killing the biology in our product.
That makes a
So
lot of
that's
sense.
the biggest thing is to really watch out and know your products. And there's sometimes if we've had issues with it, having that preservative, we just say, do it like a week separate or something like that to let the biology really do its thing still.
So if I had a farm here in the Bighorn Basin and we were growing corn and barley and sugar beets or some alfalfa, how would you suggest, particularly in the annual crops, what would be the best timing for application?
Give you an example of what kind of product or plant you're saying about right now.
So say start with corn.
Okay, corn, in furrow works really well as a starter fertilizer. If you put it on when it is about 2 to 3 foot tall, we're seeing a little better plant health and kind of fighting off some disease and that kind of stuff. If you're putting it on right before tassel is where we're seeing our biggest yield increase.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So there's a lot of different times we've seen, benefits across the board, but just kind of the different timing depending on what you're really shooting for. Like wheat, we do a lot with it, and in furrow is the best root stimulation, root health, best germination rate. Right when it's kind of greening up and coming out of its dormancy is where we're seeing our best test weight and protein increases. And then when it's in boot and flag leaf is where we're seeing our best yield increases.
Interesting. Okay. And then how is it typically being used on either alfalfa or perennial grasses on pastures?
So our primary use on that is right when it's coming out of dormancy, kind of that May time frame, end April 1st of May, whenever we get some rain and stuff starts greening up, is when we like to hit it, and it really seems to get the grass kind of woken up from its winter dormancy, get it going, get the biology back in the soil active again, and that's been our best results for that. Alfalfa, we really have seen our best results after first cutting.
Oh, okay.
That's when it seems to suck up the most nutrients.
And one thing that I think is interesting about extract is that it allows us to put a lot of the benefits of compost on much more efficiently and across a large area that may be hard to spread compost if you don't have the trucks or the equipment or the time to spread dry compost. You can get a lot of those benefits across a large area pretty economically and pretty efficiently. So what are you using for application rates?
So our primary is between 10 and 20 gallon per acre. In furrow, a lot of times we do 10 gallon per acre. Dryland crops, we're normally kind of more on the 10 gallon per acre. Irrigated, a lot of times do 20. It all depends to what your soil biology looks like. If you're really lacking, I really push people even dryland to do the 20, get it built up a little bit, and then drop back to a 10 gallon per acre application rate, or maybe even 15. Some people like to do the in furrow or right when it emerges from the ground at 10 gallon per acre, and then another 10 gallon right before, like on corn, they put it on right before tassel
I see.
or right before production. So they're getting the benefits up front of it, of the root health and stimulation that way, and the plant health, and then doing the second application really brings the yield up, not just the quality of the plant.
And this is organic and conventional growers. So it's
Correct.
going in partnership with other fertilizers. It's not the only nutrient source.
Correct. Yes, you can't totally cut your NPK, uh, as you call it, funding out. You still need to address that. However, I tell a lot of customers they can take what they normally put on and take a third of it and don't put that on. So they do 66% of their normal. The other third they don't put on, put tea on instead. And this tea extract actually helps utilize what they're putting on so it doesn't leach away as easily, doesn't get tied up with other nutrients, and becomes plant available to really help.
Sure. And
So
then as folks know, like when you apply something foliar, whether it's a synthetic or organic, either way, it goes into the plant much faster, much more directly instead of going through the soil. So it's already more efficient anyway as a foliar feed. So
correct.
that's pretty great. So you told me a story earlier about putting it in furrow with sunflowers. I think it was your brother.
My brother-in-law. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were planting sunflowers and we weren't really planning on it being a test plot, but he was planting and the pump that was running the fertilizer, which was just the tea at the time, um, broke down. And normally we would have stopped and okay, let's go fix this. Storm was coming. We're like, we just got to finish this field. Let's go. So he just didn't put tea on in furrow the rest of the field. We could see from when plants started to submerge where he had stopped and taken that 30-minute break and quit putting tea on because there was more population where we had the tea. There was better germination rate. It grew bigger. And when we combine it, we could see the difference in yield. So that was a
That's
pretty
pretty cool.
cool experiment. Um, we had another experiment on corn, that another one of those not planned experiments, and it was one that we were doing 10 gallon per acre. All they had done for fertilizer was raw manure previously. Uh, they were putting it on through the pivot, and something happened where the pivot quit moving and put a lot on in one area. And when we were chopping it, you could see the corn just get taller and taller and taller, and then just stop and go back down right where that sprinkler had sat. And then the water had ran both directions with that tea in it. And it gained about 6 inches of height on the corn just by that higher application rate. And that's when we really started looking at it and going, okay, maybe we should try 20 gallon per acre instead of our 10, and started playing
Well,
with
those are
new.
great. Those unplanned experiments are great.
Yes.
So you have some gardeners. I know you sell in smaller quantities for some gardeners in your area. Do you have some vegetable farms or other specialty crops down there that are using it?
So I don't in large scale. I do a lot, yes, with the gardening. We've seen really good results of that. I've got a pretty good following that like to buy 1 gallon jugs of stuff um, for their gardens. Unfortunately, our area, I just haven't worked with a lot of vegetables. I do have a couple people I'm talking to that I'm hoping we can actually make something happen, that they're kind of in my area to make it work.
And the
So
way
we're
you'd recommend that maybe is a seed treatment the same way, maybe a root dip when you're transplanting, and also skin spraying during the season.
correct. Like for our gardeners, what a lot of them do is when you're first planting your seed, or if you're transplanting, you put just a little squirt bottle, just mist the right around the seed, or the root ball, just mist it, put it in. Once the plant is established and growing good, mist the plant again. And the first time, it really helps root stimulation germination. The second time, when it's established and growing, seems to really help the plant health, fight off disease, all that. And then right before production, right before flowering, if you missed the plant again, is where we're really seeing the production increase. We've had a couple experiments with bean plants, green beans, that they just wouldn't quit producing. And we're like, this is a good problem, but wow, we got a lot of green beans. So it was cool to see that too.
That is cool. Do you mind sharing a little bit about how it's made? What makes it an extract versus a tea?
Yep, no problem. So traditional compost teas, they'll take the compost, you put it in water with a little air agitation, and you let it sit there for about 24 hours. And that gets the biology woken up and reproducing. When you do that, you have to use it right away. It doesn't have a shelf life because those microbes are awake and looking for food. If you don't use it, they start dying. Um, the other part about that is when you do a lot, the strong microbes will reproduce and they kill off the weak ones. So you have a huge population of not as diverse biology. We use extraction, which is running it through. We put our compost in our extractor. It runs high pressure air through, water through. The compost is in it's kind of a cheesecloth filter. You put it in, and as the water and the air go through, it gets it up and agitated, and your microbes will attach to the water molecules. And then we pump it out, and we try to do it fairly quickly so we don't wake them up. We're trying to keep that biology in a dormant state. Then when they're in the liquid, we've done a lot of tests up to 3 months out, as long as you keep it out of direct sunlight and not extreme heat or freezing. 3 months out, we still have 95% viability in there. And what we're doing is we're keeping a lot more biology diversity. And then the goal is once you put it on the ground, those microbes start seeking food, and then they reproduce, and whatever that ground is lacking will naturally reproduce and fill those voids. So I like to call it the shotgun effect. Brewing, you're trying to hit the bullseye, you're getting just as one, you're hoping you get the right one. We use a shotgun effect. We're throwing a huge amount of diversity at it. So there's that option of whatever is needed, hopefully will be there to actually be able to thrive once it's in the
Yeah, I
soil.
think something else about this extract, which is cool, and I've looked at some of these at your microbial analysis from the lab, is you have a lot of fungal organisms. You can have some protozoa in there. You have a great amount of diversity, and in most of our heavily farmed soils here, especially in the basin, they're very bacterial dominant because of high disturbance and high inputs, synthetic inputs, and so they're not very diverse anymore. And so this provides not only the diversity, but I think perhaps more important is it provides also the food at the same time you're providing the diversity. Because if you just put a bunch of microbes in there, put a bunch of bugs on there, or you just put molasses or something, you need something, you need both the biology and you need something for the biology to eat and to thrive. And so having those both together makes a lot of sense to me. And especially if then you want to add a humic substance, or you want to add some fish hydrolysate, or you want to add some other compounds in there to give it even more of a boost, especially if you're trying to meet a certain nutrient requirement for a crop. That's where I think this extract really can shine and provide both of those things together.
I totally agree. Yeah, we've had a lot of the, I would say, ag industry has been so, I want to say brainwashed, but so pushed on NPK. That's what you need. That's what you need. You need your fertilizer. Yes, that's definitely a piece of it. But the biology end has been forgot about for so long that now a lot of these synthetic fertilizers have killed off a lot of biology and kind of dropped the population back and the diversity back. So you really need some sort of NPK source, you need some biology, and you need soil structure. There's really three big components to that to make anything thrive. And I've had people, can I just get the tea and this will fix all my problems? Well, if you have those other parts of the puzzle, yes. If you have no nutrients there, it can only do so much.
Yeah.
So it's a big puzzle that works together. It's really complementary with a lot of other stuff, and a lot of the big farmers being able to see, okay, I can cut back on my actual fertilizer inputs and save that money by using this extract, and they're getting the same results out of it in the end and actually building their soil for future, not just this one crop. So they're seeing instant results, but they're also seeing long-term better benefits of better soil.
And you have some farmers you're working with that are also applying compost as well as the extract, or instead of.
So yeah, our ideal 1-2 punch is the compost and the tea. That's ultimately ideal, and that's getting that picture of the NPK really comes with the compost. Yes, there's some biology in it, but you're getting that NPK out of it. The tea, you're really not getting NPK. It's if somebody asks me, well, how much nitrogen do I get this? None. I mean, there's some in there, but it's minimal. That's not what I'm selling. I am selling a biological stimulant. I'm selling biology that will utilize what you have or what you're putting in.
Yeah. And going right in, and whatever is there is going right in through the plant, absorbing right into the plant tissue. So.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, thank you. This is really great. Hopefully it's helpful to folks that can think about how this might fit into the rotation. And I think what you said about, if we are tilling our soils really heavily with a lot of disturbance, and we're still using a lot of synthetic inputs, pesticides and high disturbance, we're not gonna solve all of our problems by just putting on some more microbes, right? But it's a really important piece of the puzzle if we're looking at reducing some disturbance, reducing some synthetic inputs, increasing the biology, putting all these pieces together. And I think it's helpful because it's a very efficient way to put on some of these microbes that are adapted to our bioregion too, to our growing system here. So I think hopefully it's a good solution for folks. So thanks for your time, Jason. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you. And anybody has any questions, I hope they reach out to either you or I. I'd love to answer more, and I'd just love to help the industry.